Welcome to episode 12 of L.I.F.T.S. This week, we've got a special guest, two special guests from IHRSA, who we are incredibly excited to speak with. Matthew, you are in sunny California. How is your morning going today?
Yes, very good. I was just saying off camera. I think winter's over. We've had 3 terrible days of rain, and it seems as though we got the sun shining. So I'm pleased now. We're back to normal.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I am happy and celebrating because we just went above zero today. I still have snow on the ground. And our two guests here I want to introduce, I think one of them's in Boston. Maybe you're both in Boston, but I'm going to start with Pam Kufahl, who is the Senior Director of Communications at IHRSA, and Melissa Rodriguez, who is IHRSA's Market Research Advisor. Welcome to the L.I.F.T. podcast.
Thanks for having us. And I'm coming from cold Kansas City, but celebrating the Chiefs win. So hoping that by the time this airs, I can say they've had a couple more wins.
Thank you for having us, Mo and Matthew. Yeah, I'm on the cold East Coast, so I really wish I was in your shoes right now, Matthew. Could have enough of the snow.
You're welcome anytime.
Well, by the time this airs, Pamela will be in about a week. So the Chiefs hopefully will have notched one more victory and on their way to the Super Bowl.
Hopefully, we'll see.
Well, we are really excited to have you both on. And the reason we had asked you to be on is because I had a chance along with Matthew, to look at two reports that IHRSA had released. The first one being a 2023 IHRSA Global Report, and the second being the 2023 U.S. Health and Fitness Consumer Report. And look, being in the industry, these are reports that we look forward to every single year. They're incredibly insightful. I know for Matthew and I, we each run our own businesses. And a lot of the data from the report helps us provide insights into planning, into trends, and into some of the things that, where we want to go and take our own businesses in the next year. So we felt like, why not have you on and maybe talk through some of the key insights that you've seen in this year's reports.
Great. Yeah, if I can start out, first of all, I know that most people watching this probably are familiar with IHRSA, but just to give you a little bit of background, IHRSA is the Health and Fitness Association that represents clubs and studios around the world to policymakers and the investor community and consumers in the media. And we provide what we feel are benefits to our members that will help them be more successful and that will help us all collectively make the world a healthier place. So we've been around for many, many years, and we do all of that, help our members through our 3 pillars, which are education, advocacy, and research. And the 2 reports you're talking about are part of our research. And so we put out the consumer report in December, and it's based on 2022 data. We'll be putting out our 2023, our 2024 consumer report sometime in the late summer or early fall. And then our global report went out this fall, and we'll be putting out our 2024 one probably this summer as well. So that's kind of a little bit of background on IHRSA and the consumer report and the research reports that we put out. Melissa was heavily involved with both reports. And so I think she probably has really good perspective on some of the insights that we had there. And so Melissa, do you want to chat with them a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So a little bit about the consumer report. Now, IHRSA has been conducting an annual consumer study in the U.S. since 1987. So that's back when we were doing mail-based paper surveys and then heading into online surveys, decades later. So it's a very comprehensive overview of health club member behavior, everything from, how has member growth changed over the years? What are some of the activities people are participating in at clubs? What equipment is popular? And it also gives a breakdown by demographics. So like behavior and participation by demographics as well. And we also include a snapshot of personal training users as well in the report. So, the latest edition has kind of pre-COVID through 2022 kind of trends and changes. And then with the global report, it's probably our most sought after resource, Pamela, I think. It's
Mhm.
probably safe to say that. It looks at kind of an overview of all the trends and shaping the global health club industry across not just the US, but in kind of Europe, Asia, and across Latin America. And so that's another kind of valuable resource. And this year we had a survey of IHRSA member clubs that we used to kind of compile the leading operators across the world, as well as kind of some of their expectations for the year.
Just a quick question on the industry one. We've been buying it for many years, and one of the gentlemen who works in our organization, Duncan Black, he also used it to get an idea about from our business what's happening in the international markets and penetration rates and that kind of thing. And one of the things that we noticed this year, and it may be that we're looking in the wrong areas, but there was a part of the report that used to kind of show market sizes and some of the statistics about the international markets. And the one that we saw this time, it wasn't there. Was that a purposeful change to not include that, or was that just that some of that data wasn't available this year?
Yeah, it's difficult sometimes to collect that data, and with COVID, it's been a little bit more difficult to collect that. So, I believe, and Melissa has worked on this report for longer than I have, so she has a little bit more historical perspective and can probably speak to that a little bit more. But the directory at the back of the global report does include as much data, such as the number of locations, the revenue from the previous year for companies that will submit that data. Melissa, I don't know if you have some more
Yes.
historical perspective
Mhm.
there.
Yes, some of those market statistics that we see quoted in public firm filings. Yeah, that's something that it's been tougher to aggregate that after COVID. It is something that we're working on, and hopefully, as the markets recover, we can get kind of good and reliable data to publish that in the future. But it is something that we've done in the past. It's just because of kind of this disruption of COVID and the lack of kind of good reliable data. It's been a little harder to compile that on a country by country basis like we did in the past.
Right. And what would you say then? Because there's a lot in that report. I've spent many hours on the plane reading both of them. But what would you say, as someone that's spent a lot of time putting these together? What would you say are kind of some of the headlines that either surprised you or didn't surprise you, positive or negative, that you could kind of share today?
You want to take that, Melissa?
Sure, sure, absolutely. So I think we can kind of starting with the consumer report. I think it's even though it's based on the U.S., I think there's kind of a lot of relevance kind of on an international, global scale. But kind of when we're looking at the growth in U.S. Health Club members, it's become a more kind of diverse group. It's definitely over time, and the youngest generation, Gen Z, has posted the greatest growth over the last like 10 years in comparison to any other age group. So even when they're and this report, it tracks consumer demographics, consumer usage from ages 6 and older. So it's not just adults. So we've been able to track that growth of youth, like before Gen Z became what it is today. Like, and they were growing. That cohort has been growing even since they were kids. So that's kind of like a key trend, and it's probably not a surprise to us now, but it's just been happening for a lot longer than we might have thought. That's kind of one of the key takeaways from that report. And then I think one of the things that we've seen with pre-COVID and post-COVID, either pre-COVID and post-COVID, we could see the HVLP operators. They were growing, and membership to those clubs have grown too, especially when it's kind of a volatile economic environment. People maybe they're looking to trade down, they're looking for more affordable membership. So that's posted growth both in the HVLP and HVLP 2.0 that might offer tiered membership plans, like not just if you want more than access to the gym floor and equipment, but if you want to add on group exercise, it's kind of typically priced higher. So that's grown about 2% since pre-COVID, but probably the big winner has been kind of the premium club segment. We've seen about 8% growth from 2019 to 2022. So even though the kind of affordably priced clubs have grown, it's like the premium segment, which it can include some of our kind of premium operators. We could health club full service operators, but also studios that offer kind of an unlimited class plan or set number of class plans, and maybe their individual classes are just priced like a little higher. So that's kind of one of the two key call outs. On the global scale, I think, one of the things that, it can be, you can take solace in, or you can just kind of some more reminder of some of the challenges. But a lot of the challenges that were happening, like in the US, there was just kind of a lot of challenges, like on a global scale, because of COVID and because of the macro environment. And a lot of uh, the best clubs have kind of figured a way around it. Smaller enterprises might be kind of still kind of struggling with it, but there are a lot of kind of positive things to look for in the future and the long term outlook for the industry.
And one thing that we were really excited about with the consumer report was just seeing that the number of members continues to increase. We obviously went through some difficult times with COVID, but in 2022 we saw a 3.7% increase in the number of members, to 68.9 million. So that's a nice jump. Again, those are 2022 numbers. So we're looking for the 2023 numbers soon, and we'll be featuring that at the IHRSA 2024 event in March in Los Angeles. So there'll be at least the financial panel that Rick Caro does will include some of the top level numbers there, and then LEK Consulting, which analyzed the data for the consumer report and authored the report for us, will also be presenting some of the data from 2022, but also some of the top line numbers from 2023 that we'll be able to start sharing soon. So, so that has been very exciting. And in addition to that, obviously with inflation, we're seeing prices increase for utilities and wages for your employees, et cetera. And what that has meant is that more and more health club operators are increasing their monthly membership fees. So we did see an increase there in fees. I know a lot of club operators are hesitant to do so because they're afraid it's going to hurt their membership numbers. But I think consumers are very aware that costs have increased, and therefore the price for a lot of their services are also increasing. So those were two things that I took away from the consumer report that I thought were very interesting.
I think something which I've been looking at here is, what has COVID pulled forward, right? What has changes in the pandemic? Are there any trends that they pull forward? And looking at one of the tables that you have on the consumer report, one of the most alarming, I think, tables here is looking at the average annual attendance rates, and they've declined, right? So looking at 2019 as an example, the fitness only facilities were at 136 per year in 2019. In 2021, there were 79. And in 2022, there were 87. And maybe 23 will show some recovery there. But nevertheless, across the board, in every modality, people are attending the physical locations less. I'm just curious if you've paired this data with anything or activity that people might be doing at home, and if you think that digital and connected offerings, or maybe just working out outdoors or running outdoors, might have helped influence some of the in-gym attendance.
Yeah, I really do. We discussed this as well because that was one of the areas that did decrease. And that was one of our reasons behind it, or as far as we're concerned. People during COVID got used to working out at home. They got used to working out outside, but they want to come back to their club because they want that in-person experience with other people. uh, Making fitness an experience is really important now. That's a trend that we're seeing. And so they want to be at the club, but they also use their bike at home, and they walked outside with their friends a couple of times a week. And maybe they weren't doing that before. And so we just feel like this may be maybe the norm right now. Maybe we'll start seeing people come back, later in the 2023 numbers, and maybe for this year in 2024. But we believe that's part of the reason. Now, we did see that older members do have a higher frequency rate. So That is something I think health club operators need to watch for, that the younger members have a lower frequency rate. So if you want to keep those younger members at your club, you need to make sure you're doing something that will get them in, whether it's social events, whether it's unique programming or what have you. So I don't know if you have other thoughts, Melissa, on the frequency.
Yes, yeah, I mean, historically, like you pointed out, Pamela, the older generation, boomer plus, they typically use the club more frequently. And then what we've seen, kind of, in addition to COVID, along the last kind of decade or so, the youth group kind of increasing their participation at clubs. They usually use the club less frequently. There are other things they're doing with their time. Youth and teens, their outdoor activities, sports that they participate in, and so that's also kind of helping drag that historical average down over time as well. So it'll be interesting in the future, to see not only like will clubs do more to like incentivize frequent in-club attendance, but are they also tracking other touch points and forms of engagement? Like if they're not coming to the club, how often are they streaming my workouts through the app? Or how often are they participating in other offerings that the club might provide that may not be within the club?
Right. It really speaks
I
to
know
health
this
club
is
operators needing to have that touch point outside the club. So you need to have your app, you need to have your on-demand training, and you need to work with them on tracking their workouts so that when they do come to their personal trainer, they can see what they've been doing and customize their personal training sessions based on that.
I know this is not in your report, but you've obviously, big part of your organization is the annual trade show that you guys run, and that's supported by vendors like ourselves. And I was interested, some of the people that we've spoke to in our podcasts have mentioned that there's still quite a bit of legacy debt, which is affecting the ability to invest, and in turn, that is creating less opportunities when it comes to manufacturers, the less business around, and in some cases maybe more vendors. What do you know or seen, if anything, in terms of how a lot of your members are positioned financially, and their ability to invest in their current business, and also have the ability to invest in expansion like they probably would have done on a regular basis prior to the pandemic?
Yeah, I think it's all over the board. I think it really depends on how well positioned a company was prior to the pandemic, how good of a relationship they had with their landlords and their bankers and their investors. And we're seeing some company. I'm not going to name any companies, but certain companies who had grand plans, and then even after COVID, they had announced grand plans, and then they really had to scale back. Yeah, I think it really depends on that. I think studios obviously were impacted more than most health clubs were during COVID, just because of the close proximity of studios during your workouts. But you are seeing studios also bounce back with their memberships. So also studios tend to trend more female, and women were
Mhm.
slower to return to clubs than men were. So I think all of that has an impact on the industry. But I say I believe it varies depending on the organization's health prior to COVID.
And do you know, like in some of the older reports, I don't know whether you still do it now, but it used to be like the value of the industry, like total. I guess it was a combination of individual operators and membership fees and that sort of stuff. Like, do you have an indication now of what the size of the industry was in terms of US dollars per market then versus now? And if so, where does that sit?
Yeah, I don't have that off the top of my head, and I know we didn't collect it for these two reports, but it definitely is some data that we're going to be expanding our research data, and bringing back a few things that we used to do pre-COVID, and expanding and adding additional research. And I know that that will be something that the industry is interested in. We're also trying to speak to the investor community because we are seeing more and more
Mhm.
investors interested in the fitness industry. They see that the importance of this industry and the growth potential for it. And so that's important data for that community to have as well.
Mm.
Yeah, look, I think with this intersection between fitness and healthcare, you're going to get a whole slew of new types of individuals and institutional capital that's going to be coming in, and they're going to be looking for different points of reference in these reports. So I think looking at that evolution, the reports are probably going to evolve in the coming years, like based off of the changing needs of it. Another interesting table, which I found, look, Matthew and I have committed ourselves, and we have been increasingly more hitting the road, visiting our clients, going to gyms in person, and really kind of seeing what this post-pandemic world looks like and what does the future of fitness and wellness look like. And we keep on hearing that cardio is down. In fact, both of us have been to gyms that have downsized their cardio section and grown their strength section. And we hear things like Pilates is having a boom. Pilates has been having a boom for a couple of years. But then I looked at the data, and that's certainly what we believed. And when we look at how we're asked to implement technology, a lot of it is around strength, right? And you look at studios like Orange Theory Fitness has launched a strength only class as well, in addition to the other offerings. But when I look at the data actually tells a different story in your report. So I'd love to kind of dig into that a bit. And specifically, in figure 2.6, you've got this table that talks about equipment utilization. And number one is treadmills. And it's been consistent for the last 3 years. So 2019, it was utilized 44%. 2021 was 42%. 2023 was 43%, followed by free weights and then resistance machines. But all of those numbers have been consistent. So the data has not shown a big percentage point in swing from this, big shift that we've been hearing about and hearing operators talk about. Could you help unpack that a bit? Maybe it's more reflective in the 2023 data, which we don't have yet.
Well, I'll speak to it a little bit, and then Melissa, you can jump in if you'd like. I mean, my own thought is that think about somebody who's never been to health club before. What piece of equipment is going to seem the least intimidating to them? It's likely going to be the treadmill. Maybe they had a treadmill at home. Maybe they used a treadmill at a friend's house. So I think even though treadmills are still the most used equipment, it doesn't necessarily mean that that cardio is having a renaissance again. I think it really just is the comfort level for people at a gym. It takes people a long time a lot of newbies to health clubs, and obviously we see the HVLP segment as the most popular segment out there, and you've got a lot of people going to those gyms because they've never belonged to a gym before. This is a cheap, affordable way to get into a health club, and they're going to gravitate to that piece of equipment that they know or feel most comfortable with. So that's my thought on why treadmills are still the most popular piece of equipment. But I do believe all of the talk about strength training becoming more popular, even though we're not necessarily seeing it overtake treadmills. Melissa, I don't know if you have additional thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think there's the treadmills definitely they're kind of less intimidating. It has a broad age group appeal, and I also think that maybe treadmills they haven't been as impacted with some of the changes and cardio equipment participation because of the rise of not just strength training but like functional strength training, right? So you see treadmills at a lot of not only on the gym floor but it's a part of a lot of studio and class workouts too. So that's another opportunity for people to use treadmills. Same thing with like bikes, and I think in our report that seemed to like it was about static too, like bike participation. So I think with the treadmill, it's been kind of insulated by some of the decrease in cardio, in like cardio equipment participation because it might appeal to that functional training component, and it's also used like in studios and group classes.
What do you think? Certainly, during a lot of our conversations on the podcast, we get people on, and it very much seems as though the fitness industry that many of us have been part of for 10, 15 years is definitely at the core of what's happening. But we was at CES last week, and we were talking to Julian from Boutique Fitness Summit. He's renamed his organization, and when we got into the conversation, we said, why is that? And his perception was that the kind of core of the industry isn't quite what it used to be. We're moving from a very much of a fitness type of industry where we use treadmills and strength machines, and now it's very much about health. It's about wellness, and it's in some cases moving into the realms of medical. So when I guess from IHRSA's perspective, how do you define what where you guys represent, and how are you thinking about staying relevant with both the information, your reports, and representing your members to kind of be aware that it no longer is the same space as what it used to be, and but at the same time kind of making sure that some of the things that you report on and the various trends make sense for you to kind of evolve in that direction.
Right. Yeah, we definitely are aware that the industry is evolving and really is becoming more about not just physical health, but mental health as well. And for it to encompass mental health, you need to ensure that um, you're offering a more holistic sort of programming and equipment, and longevity programming. We're seeing a lot of clubs get into that: anti-aging, longevity, weight loss drugs, but really focusing in on the mental health. I think so many people during COVID began to understand that their physical health impacts their mental health. And there have been more and more studies out there showing the relationship between physical health and mental health. So offering things like recovery programs and stretching programs and mind body programs, which have always been popular and continue to be popular today, including Pilates, I think is so important. And we're definitely mindful of that. So, like at our IHRSA 2024 event in March, we have some sessions, we have one or two sessions on longevity and just what that means, longevity programming, and what that means for the industry. We'll have some clubs that are involved in that, and they will be on a panel talking about why they got involved in longevity programming, what they're offering, what that means, and who should be offering that, because there can be a concern about if you're offering an IV drip or a hormone replacement therapy or what have you, what qualifies you to do that. So that's all something that the industry is um, going to have to, I guess, come to terms with and make a decision on. And we'll be discussing that at the IHRSA event. And we've got some exhibitors as well who are in that space too. So we're definitely expanding into that, and we definitely understand that that's the direction of the industry.
And just to shift gears a bit, so I live in the DC area. I live in Arlington, Virginia. I actually live less than a mile away from your president, Liz Clark. I've run into
Mhm.
her at local restaurants and all those things. So that's been a lot of fun. But I've definitely noticed an increased activity by IHRSA, not only in the DC area. You made some hires for new team members here, but advocacy has really been an important part of your mission. And I think the value that you've brought to your members. I've had an opportunity to join IHRSA in some of those activities, including conversations with folks in Congress. Recently, this FTC kind of proposal for click to cancel, which initially was targeted towards gyms to make canceling just with a click, to make canceling as easy as it is to sign up, has been in the news a lot just because Congress just met on it a couple of days ago. Why don't you speak a bit about just that proposal and the things that IHRSA is doing to help the industry there?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, advocacy is one of our pillars, and it's something we take very seriously. We've beefed up our government affairs team with a new hire, Charles Regnante, who is handling what is happening on the state level and keeping track of state bills that are impacting the fitness, health, and fitness industry. And then Mike Gazinski has been with us for a little over a year, and he's focused in on the federal side of things. And so when the FTC proposed this click to cancel rule, we sent a letter to them urging some changes, urging them to think of health clubs not as online subscription services like a Netflix or something like that. I mean, we're very different from some of those businesses. So that's one thing that we submitted some commentary to them on that rule, and we're still working with the FTC on that as they continue with their, rulemaking process. And we really do expect that something. I believe they're supposed to finalize this in the spring, and we're very hopeful that our concerns will be addressed. And we did have a win in New Jersey. New Jersey was proposing a very similar bill to the FTC's click to cancel bill. And Mike went up and testified in front of the committee there and took our concerns to them. And they heard us and they understood and they revised the bill. And so we really feel like the New Jersey situation is a really workable model that the industry can easily comply with. And so a lot of our concerns with the New Jersey bill are similar to our concerns with the FTC ruling. So, a couple of those concerns are, what exactly is cancellation? We wanted to get better clarification in the bill with what exactly is cancellation. And for the New Jersey bill, we got it changed to it meaning it, initiate termination. And what that does, that it allows an opportunity for saving memberships and reminders of agreement terms for processing final payments before cancellation. So we felt that was really, really important. And then we also wanted to ensure that the law applied exclusively to memberships that were entered into online, so that you didn't take memberships that were entered in person and now require that those people are allowed to cancel online. I mean, everybody is a consumer as well. So there's a part of, I think, everybody that's like, yes, if I subscribed online, I want to be able to cancel online. But you also have to think about the business operator and the steps that they have to go through in order to uh, in order to, I guess, adhere to that bill. And so we took into consideration a lot of those concerns for the New Jersey bill. One of the things was they wanted to make it apply immediately. And we got them to write in that there was a 90-day implementation timeline. So those were all important things. There were 18 bills introduced across 6 states that were related in 2023, that were related to either auto renewal or click to cancel. So it is something that we're going to be seeing more and more of, I believe. And I think, to have to adhere to 50 different click to cancel bills in 50 different states, and then the FTC's bill, would be extremely difficult for any club operator. So if they can all be streamlined to be similar or the same, it's going to be such a win for the health club industry. And we are definitely working hard to do what we can to make it fair to the consumer, but also fair to health club and studio operators.
Well, look, thanks. We're just about running out of time. Thank you guys very much for joining us today. Just a final question: like, is there, Melissa? I know you're working on a lot of this research yourself. Is there any things that you think we can expect to see in the next report that might be interesting for you to share, or can you give us any sort of insights into what might be coming down the line?
Sure. Yeah. I think when you think about the consumer report, I think like Pam mentioned that, the studios had a really significant bounce back in 2022 relative to 2021, but they're still down about 3 million members, which is about 12 or 13% from where they were in 2019. So I think it would be really keen to see how does that segment recover fully. Will that happen in 2023? What will the numbers look like? I think that's something that we can kind of look forward to, like, specifically from the report, and then just having that 2023, one extra year removed from COVID, see what will happen with the attendance levels, see if that's kind of bounced back a little bit more, as we kind of discussed earlier. Those are kind of two things that I'm kind of on the lookout for and keen to see as a change relative to the previous years.
Well, thank you guys again for joining us. Looking forward to the next report. If anyone wants to get hold of both of the reports we're speaking about today, we'll put these in the show notes, and we'll put them in the comments below. And if anybody's got any questions or anything to add, then we'd love to hear from you, and you can do that on the L.I.F.T.S podcast page on LinkedIn. So once again, thank you very much for your time. Mo, any final comments?
No, I just want to say thank you so much. This has been incredibly insightful. Really glad to have both of you on, and let's do this next year with the new reports coming out.
Sounds great.
Right,
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.